Welcome back once again. And as we all know, we mentioned at the beginning of this episode that one of our main topics is embarking over Egypt's foreign diplomacy. And as we all know, the fact that Egypt is occupying an important, unique geopolitical position at the crossroads between Africa, the Middle East, the Mediterranean, the Red Sea, one of the oldest states in international system. And of course, the foreign policy is characterized by so many strategies concerning so many parts. Egypt have been renowned ever since President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi have stepped into office by its foreign policy, very smart foreign policy, and its diplomatic force and power. When we talk about Egypt enjoying or exercising stretching its diplomatic muscles, we could see a lot of mediation roles throughout the history. Palestinian-Israeli conflict, the Libyan crisis, the Sudanese, the maritime security in the Red Sea, regional de-escalation efforts among competing Middle Eastern powers, even the US-Iranian war, and so many other, the migration also issues. All that and more when we talk about diplomacies, the very successful diplomacies. And this is going to be our first topic on the show today. Very delighted to be joined in the studio by Dr. Mariam Waheed, and she is a professor of economics and political science, Cairo University. Good morning, Dr. Mariam.
Good morning.
But let us first go to our first report that talks about the same issue, where Egypt's foreign policy approach is often described as one of the strategic equilibrium enabling Cairo to act as a mediator in regional conflicts. More details.
Egypt's foreign policy is anchored in the principles of strategic balance, non-alignment, and the pursuit of regional stability. Leveraging its unique geographic position at the crossroads of Africa, the Middle East, the Mediterranean, and the Red Sea, Egypt has developed a pragmatic diplomatic approach over more than 2 centuries. Cairo seeks to maintain constructive relations with major global powers while preserving its strategic autonomy, allowing it to engage with diverse international partners without aligning exclusively with any single bloc. Economic diplomacy has become a central pillar of Egypt's foreign policy, reflecting the government's focus on sustainable development and investment-driven growth. Egypt actively strengthens partnerships with regional and international organizations, including the African Union, the Arab League, and BRICS, while expanding cooperation with Gulf states, the European Union, China, and the United States. These partnerships support national development priorities through trade, infrastructure investment, energy cooperation, and technology transfer, reinforcing Egypt's position as a regional economic hub. On the multilateral front, Egypt continues to play a prominent role in addressing regional and global challenges through active participation in international forums. Cairo advocates for collective solutions to issues such as climate change, food security, migration, and counter-terrorism, while supporting reforms that enhance the effectiveness of multilateral institutions. Egypt also promotes African and developing countries' interests in global governance, emphasizing equitable economic opportunities and sustainable development. Security and conflict mediation remain defining features of Egypt's diplomatic engagement. Drawing on its long-standing regional influence, Cairo serves as a key mediator in efforts to de-escalate tensions and facilitate dialogue in conflicts across the Middle East and Africa, particularly concerning the Palestinian issue, Libya, Sudan, and the Horn of Africa. Through balanced diplomacy, intelligence cooperation, and support for negotiated political settlements, Egypt continues to position itself as a reliable actor committed to preserving regional peace, safeguarding maritime security, and advancing long-term stability.
Welcome back once again. Like we already said, very delighted to be having with us Dr. Mariam Waheed, Professor of Economic and Political Science, Cairo University. Good morning, Dr. Mariam.
Good morning. It's my pleasure.
It's a pleasure to have you. How has Egypt's geographic location influenced the evolution of its foreign policy and since the 20th century speaking?
Yeah, so when we start talking about Egyptian diplomacy, we're talking about, we're celebrating this week 200 years of diplomacy in modern Egypt, starting from the beginning of having an institution of foreign policy or foreign affairs in Alexandria, then when it came to Cairo later on. Particularly, it was mainly of 200 years of active Egyptian foreign policy and diplomacy, starting from ancient times till today. And particularly, we are speaking also, we are celebrating this week, the 30th of June revolution. So this week, actually, we're witnessing two big events, 200 years of active foreign policy in Egypt, and also the 30th of June revolution. If we're talking about diplomacy as a word at the beginning, so it started from ancient Greek with diploma, or the idea of folding into two, and MA is the object. So it started with the idea of sending official authorities abroad, and actually in Egypt we've witnessed very strong diplomats along history, and there are specific main points or the major if you can say characteristics of Egyptian foreign policy that Egypt is playing the pivotal role in the region: pro de-escalation, pro more cooperation and more dialogue, and ending de-escalation in the region, and also preserving the security of all countries in the world, and trying to maintain cooperation and non-interference in the internal affairs of other countries, and not also joining any permanent military alliances. So these are the main characteristics of Egyptian foreign policy along history. And in December 2025, we witnessed the publishing of the white paper of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and this actually portrayed the concept of strategic balance, which is a main concept governing the Egyptian foreign policy right now. And it's about balancing multilateral diplomacy, or trying to be in balance with a lot of countries in the world, and trying to maintain cooperation and ending conflict and de-escalation in a very complex world right now, we're witnessing right now.
Right. What are the key principles that guide the Egyptian foreign policy at large, that for the people to know? And how does Egypt balance the national security concerns and regional diplomatic responsibilities at the same time?
The main principles is about mutual respect, non-interference in the internal affairs, and also trying to find out what are the diplomacy as we know right now. If we think about it, it's not the traditional diplomacy that the world has been witnessing along. So there are new forms of diplomacy. Even if we're talking about a lot of countries right now are having new forms of diplomacy, not the traditional aspects of diplomacy, but new diplomacy. Like, for example, the concept of public diplomacy, the concept of how education is linked to diplomacy, how also scholarships are linked to diplomacy, diplomacy, and trying to find a way or negotiations with other countries not to resort to war. So in any relations between two countries, in international relations, we studied that it's a sum of relations, either conflictual or cooperative. So when we talk about the maximum, on the maximum level of conflict is the war. But when we're talking about cooperation, we're talking about diplomacy, we're talking about negotiations. And Egypt is keen on having more negotiations with countries in the world, trying to restore peace and balance and harmony between nations, ending also internal conflicts. We've witnessed in different Arab countries some kind of ethnic conflicts, even inside civil wars in some countries, for example. So Egypt is keen not to for also on having national armies in the region, ending any kind of militias in the region, and main concern of Egyptian foreign policy also is combating terrorism. And this is mentioned in the white paper as well, that it's trying to combat terrorism, trying to end any kind of conflicts, also ending militias that are there in some of the countries. So these are some of the principles, and also not being in a military, permanent military alliance in the world.
So why, in your own perception, is Egypt considered as one of the most effective mediators on several very popular international crises, like the Middle East, for example, the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, like the Sudanese, the Libyan? Egypt was very successful in that, especially in the Palestinian crisis, and it all ended. It was not. It hasn't ended because Israel is always violating international law. But it was summed up and respected by the United States only when Egypt interfered in Sharm el-Sheikh and the peace agreement was held. That is a milestone.
Yes, of course.
No other country succeeded in effecting that type of mediation.
Yes, and also Egypt is playing right now a major role also in mediating between the United States of America and Iran, also with Pakistan and other countries. And of course, when we're talking about Palestine, Egypt has been a very strong mediator in this long protracted conflict for ages between Israel and the Palestinian people. And even if there are still some violations by the Israeli authorities, but still Egypt has played a very strong role, and the big Sharm el-Sheikh, when we hosted leaders from different countries in the world, and this very strong role in ending the conflict and insisting that the Palestinian people live peacefully and ending the conflict and wars in the region.
So what diplomatic tools has Egypt employed to maintain communication channels with all parties in regional conflicts? You already talked about that. Yeah. But then Egypt has its own Midas touch. Yes. When it comes to the diplomatic tools. And you said that the diplomatic means they verify from according to the momentum.
Yes.
Do you think that Egypt is distinguished in that part and because of its Egyptian administration, I mean its leader?
Yes, of course. There's a strong political will to have harmony and balance between different countries in the world, and trying to end any kind of conflicts in the region and wars, and trying to maintain new ways, because it's diplomacy is about always following up the new dynamics in the world. So that's the concept of strategic balance. That it's trying to balance and see the different dynamics in the region, because politics is always about dynamics. It's not constant. It's changing. So we need to figure out what's the relation between the big powers, the superpowers, and the middle powers and the smaller powers. So it's like a kind of a balance, because when you talk about the political system, the international political system along history, sometimes the international political system was a multipolar political system. Sometimes it was a bipolar between two poles. Sometimes it was more about a unipolar political system. So right now we're witnessing it's like more of a multipolar political system, with we have of course superpowers like the United States of America, like different European countries. Also the European Union is a strong actor in the foreign policy all over the world. So trying to maintain, also Egypt has been strongly involved in a lot of international meetings with big leaders around the world to discuss what can be done in order to maintain and foster strong relations between countries, economically, politically, educationally. So when we, for example, encourage students to travel abroad and learn abroad, so we are now teaching them to understand the values of other countries, to get engaged in other countries. So this ends conflict as well. So it's in terms of even art, and there's a concept right now in literature and political science called musical diplomacy even. It's about the importance
and
of music.
Diplomacy. And sports diplomacy.
Of course, sports diplomacy and musical diplomacy. All of these are new forms of diplomacy. Conference diplomacy. So these are new forms that actually Egypt is keen on encouraging youth, the idea of public diplomacy, that even youth are ambassadors of their own countries when they travel abroad, when they learn abroad and get engaged in different communities. So we're witnessing also different kinds of activities that were considered as not part of politics, but they are deeply inside politics right now.
Right. If we try to assess the mediating role, or let us handle the diplomatic role of Egypt and its foreign policy and the strategic importance and depth and gravity inside the continent. Let us start off by Africa. Ever since 2019, when Egypt assumed the chairmanship of the African Union, and all the agreements that were held, the investment agreements and business agreements, and also the partnerships that were held between Egypt and the different African countries concerning their own interests, looking after their own interests, and in particular the presidential initiatives that were taken in Egypt were extended to our brothers and sisters in Africa, like 100 million lives, the women and children, and the virus C, all of that. Even educational scholarships were provided for the African students to come over to Egypt and study for free, and all this. Talk to us about this massive effort that was spared by Egypt ever since 2019 in Africa.
Yes, of course. So when we start about talking that actually Egypt is strongly involved in trying to be active in the African continent along history. So it's like Egypt is an African country and a strong African country. And also, when we're talking about scholarships, let me start with scholarships. There was a big initiative in the National Training Academy in Egypt for actually hosting African students and to get training. And also, when we talk about historically also, that there were some medical supplies sent to some African countries. So that is something very crucial for for Egypt, and also trying to train African students in our universities. Actually, there are a lot of African students from different African countries. That's a big number, not a small number. And also, when we talk about the pillars of Egyptian foreign policy right now, is encouraging also African countries on development and sustainable development and maintaining development in different fronts. Also, when we talk about, for example, environmental diplomacy, and there's a strong also engagement of Egyptian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Environment on in the different COP meetings, for example, with African countries. That's each year. Also to talk about how to encourage also African countries to try to collaborate together to confront the different climate change challenges confronting the world in general and a lot of African countries as well.
True. Right. So talking also about the efforts to enhance the economic integration and the infrastructure connectivity across Africa, and also not only with Africa, with the Gulf states.
Yes.
This is also another important pillar.
Of course, when we can't separate between the economy and the political scene in general in the world. So when we're talking about economic integration, it's vital for having also strong states. Development is crucial for the political systems in the world, and encouraging also the collaboration on new levels, on new investments. And we're seeing a lot of conferences held in the African countries, and Egypt even is hosting a lot of those conferences on encouraging investments in Egypt, and Africa is of course a part of this.
Right. So moving on to the region in general here and the Middle East, and even Egypt's foreign policy with our brothers and sisters in the Gulf, and how Egypt is keen on unifying or creating a unifying effort or unifying foundation or a ground that gather the Egypt and the Arab countries. How do you describe that in full detail?
Of course, this was mentioned several times, that the security for the Gulf states is related to the security of Egypt, and also the importance of the security of the Red Sea. So this is vital for the Egyptian foreign policy, and it has been always there. That actually we share along with different Arab countries strong relations historically and up till now in Gulf states, and also in other states like in Libya, for example, that the security of Libya is of vital importance for the security of Egypt. So that's why, for example, we along for nearly since 2013 till now, there is a strong emphasis on non-interference in the internal affairs of the Arab countries, and maintaining that they are independence and not intervening internally, and also importance of sovereignty of the Arab states.
Right, and also standing up for their integrity.
Yes.
Defending the rights also as if it's ours.
Yes.
Which is one of the backbones of the bond that connects us with our brothers and sisters in the Gulf. At this point, I would love to thank you so much, Dr. Mariam Waheed, Professor of Economics and Political Science, Cairo University. Thank you very much for coming over to the Breakfast Show.
Thank you.
It has been a great pleasure. And now it's Egypt driving youth empowerment through massive national and international initiatives targeting employment, digital skills, and sustainable development. And we have more details in the following report.
Youth empowerment has become a national priority in Egypt, reflecting the fact that young people constitute the largest